Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the service. We ask if you have a cell phone or pager, if you could turn it to the silent mode.
First, I want to thank everyone for being here. I know we're from different families, but we're all family today, saying goodbye to somebody we all love. We start, there's a blessing we say in the cemetery, so I'm going to say it in Hebrew and then English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yotzar eschem bedin v'zon v'chilkel eschem bedin v'hemis eschem bedin v'yodea mispar kulchem bedin v'osed la'achiyozchem u'lekayim eschem bedin Baruch atah Adonai mechaya mesim mechaya mesim atar avlo shia mechal kalchem b'chesed mechaya mesim b'rachmim rabim soymech rofe echol atiros mechayim n'aseh lishnei afar mikva mochav al garos midoma melech memis mechayim atzmiach shduah. This blessing is, blessed are you, God, King of the universe, who gives us life with a purpose, nourishes us and sustains us with a purpose, knows the sum total of what our job is in this world, and God knows when it's time to bring our soul back to heaven. And God will restore and resuscitate us also with a purpose. Blessed is God who resuscitates the dead. We believe that although the body is temporary, the soul is eternal. So we're saying a temporary goodbye. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai roi lo echsar bin osdesha yarbitzeni almei menuchas yina aleini. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'magleit tzedek l'man shemo gam ki elech v'geit salmavas la'ira ra ki ato yimadi. Shiftach mishantecha hemi nachamuni taruch l'fonei shulchan neged sorarai Dishanta b'shem Roshi kosi revaya ach tov v'chesed yurdufun kol yimei chayai v'shavti b'beis Adonai la'orach yomim. Psalm 23. God is my shepherd, I shall not lack. In lush meadows he lays me down, beside tranquil waters he leads me. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley overshadowed by death, I fear no evil, because God is with me. Your rod and staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God for the length of days. I'm going to ask Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik to a number of people are going to say a few words.
I met Yisrael Nun, or Nun as we knew him, many years ago, long before he approached me, or he approached Rabbi Weinschneider about Gerus. Many years ago, when I first became rabbi of my shul, Rabbi Reuven Gordon went to Illinois Masonic Hospital. And at that time, Nun was working there, and apparently Rabbi Gordon had to check in with him. And they got into a conversation, and Nun mentioned to Rabbi Gordon that he was interested in Judaism. He wanted to see what it's all about. So Rabbi Gordon invited him. Rabbi Gordon used to come to my synagogue, and Rabbi Gordon invited him to come to my synagogue on a Shabbos. This is 30 some odd years ago, probably, and that's when we first met. I saw a very fine gentleman, a person of to immense character traits. If you want to, what we call in Hebrew, Bal Midos, unusually good character traits. And then our paths crossed again years later, although not personally. I didn't see him. There was a trial where someone was falsely accused of beating somebody up. It wasn't true. Contrary, it was the one that was beaten, that made the accusation, that beat up the person that was accused. And I knew the person. Actually, later on, they became members of my synagogue. Also, I knew the person who was accused, and there were a number of rabbis who knew the people that were involved. Actually, some of them went to court to testify in defense of the person. And Nun was on the jury. And the easy way, because the prosecutor took the other side, the easy way would have been to say guilty. But Nun, together with the other members of the jury, insisted on checking things out. And one member of the expert had medical knowledge, and they were able to prove that the whole thing was not true. And because of him, the innocent person was not put in prison. And this was all because Nun did not take the easy way. He wanted to do what was right. Years later, I met, through Rabbi Weinschneider, I met Nun when Nun wanted to undergo gerus, to undergo conversion. And as I mentioned before, the outstanding trait of Nun was his character traits. He had unusually good character traits. And it's very interesting, when somebody comes to convert, we ask him, are you going to do the mitzvos? Are you going to follow the commandments of the Torah? Are you going to follow the laws of Judaism? And they say yes. And even though the day beforehand they didn't do it, no one expected it of them then, the next day they changed. But the Chazon Ish, he said, I was told, that besides the mitzvahs, besides davening, besides the laws of prayer, the laws of the holidays, the ritualistic laws, the laws even that have to do with how to act between one person and another, you have to evaluate, we have to be concerned about the character traits of the ger, of the person who wants to convert. Now, character traits, you can't say, if yesterday I constantly lost my temper, okay, today I'm stopping to lose my temper. When it comes to character traits, you have to have it in you beforehand. And that's one thing about Nun. Nun had, probably from birth, he probably had these special character traits. And I want to mention that in the Torah, it's interesting. He took the name Yisrael Nun. Yisrael, according to Targum Onkelos, comes from the word tsar, an officer. What is Nun? Nun means a fish in Aramaic. It means a fish. Fish is something that's hidden. An officer is somebody that is very, that on the contrary, is the center of attention. There seems to be a contradiction between his two names. One is Yisrael and the other is Nun. And Nun had the qualities of both names. He never tried to be the center of attention. He was like the fish that was almost hiding. But Nun also had the qualities of leadership. Who is a leader? A leader is one who helps people. And there was very few people that always was there to help, like Nun. And it's very interesting. The Torah tells us about three converts. One convert was Yisro, the father-in-law of Moses, of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Yisro, our sages tell us, he was a searcher. He searched. He checked out religions. And then he ended up becoming Jewish. Nun, when he first expressed an interest in Judaism, He didn't convert the next day. Why? Because he wanted to be sure. He wanted to be sure that that was his calling. He was a searcher. He had that Yisro personality. But then the Torah also tells us about another person who converted, Basia. Basia was the daughter of Pharaoh. And when Moses was a little baby, he was in a basket going down the Nile, the river. And she went and she saved him. And our sages tell us she had converted to Judaism. And the question is, how did our sages know that she converted to Judaism? But you see, when she opened up the basket that had the little child, she said, he's from the children of the Hebrews. You have to understand, in Egypt at that time, the lowest level of society were the Jewish people. The lowest level of society were the slaves, and they were the slaves in Egypt. And Basia, the daughter of Pharaoh, she was on the highest level of the society. And here she goes, and it's not that she didn't realize what it was. It was a little Jewish child, a slave child. And she not only saves him, but she identifies with him. She gets a woman to feed the baby. She says, feed him for me. She adopts him to a certain degree. Why? What does that show? That shows she identified with him. Can you imagine the daughter of the king, of the biggest anti-Semite at that time, identifying with this child who was supposed to legally, by the order of her father, to be drowned. And she not only saves him, but she adopts him and takes care of him. There's an identification. And then there is also, Rus. Rus, according to our sages, was the daughter of the king of Moab. And what does she do? Rus goes, she takes poverty to help her former mother-in-law. And she accompanies her mother-in-law to a life of poverty. Why? Because she wanted to help people. She saw her calling in life. Amechami, I'm going to go with you. She saw her life as a calling of taking care of Naomi. When you think about what did Nun see as his calling in life? His calling in life was to help people, to help the elderly. It wasn't just a job that he had. That he saw that there was a sense of fulfillment. He would take elderly people, sick people, he would bring them to the hospital. He would take young children. There were so many Naomis that he took. And there were so many little baby Moshes that he took. Children that were handicapped. Children that had all kinds of problems. It wasn't just a job. It was a calling. That was part of that personality. What is a leader? He did not want to be the center of attention. Okay. They did not want, he was not interested in being the center of attention. But a leader is one who helps people out. That's a true leader. And Nun was both. He was like the fish, hidden. But at the same time, he was also a leader. He understood the sense of responsibility. He saw his challenge in life to help others. And when he helped others, he wasn't looking forward. People like to help people that are rich because it's hanging out with them is a big thing. No, who did he help out? He helped out the sick. He helped those that were impoverished. that was Nun's child. That was Nun saw that as his role in life, and in a sense, I think true leadership. The Torah tells us that about Abraham, Lamana sheyitzaveh es banav es beisav achrav. He commands his children and his family after him. Well, Nun was not able to set up a family. He never had children. But what does it mean, achrav, after him? I heard from my father, achrav means by his example. Nun never told people what to do. It was not, he didn't feel that he had power over anybody, and he didn't want power over anybody. But it was the mitzvah, but he commanded people after him by his example. And today, unfortunately, Nun died long before his time. But we still have to have a Leman. Just like he commanded people, all those that knew him, Achrav, by his example. His example lives on. And I think that we can create the greatest memorial for him by following in his example.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Rabbi Wolf to say a few words. Rabbi Wolf, as you know, runs the Chicago Mitzvah campaign, and where Nun was able to do all those acts of kindness.
I'll make it short. Nun, I want to say thank you. And the truth is, that's all I want to say. Thank you to Rabbi Weinschneider. A number of years ago, I can't even think now how many years ago it was. I told him I need someone. I need someone I can trust. I need someone who can help the seniors. As Rabbi Soloveitchik just mentioned, I need someone who can hold their hand, take them to a doctor's appointment, take them to the senior center. I need someone to help children to go to their schools. I need someone to deliver food for people who may not have, or people who are ill. Can you give me a name of someone? And he thought about it. Thank you, Rabbi Weinschneider. I can't thank you enough. And thank you, Nun, for many years, what you have done. And I want to tell you something. I recall when he started getting symptoms, and I, suggested he should go to, I'll mention his name because he was very, very, very important for Nun in his care. I told him to go see Dr. Kaplan. And I remember when he got the report, the initial diagnosis, and he said to me, I want to continue working. He doesn't want to give that up. He wants to continue working. Even at the very end, when it was very difficult for him, he could no longer push wheelchairs. So I said, then he stopped working, and then he felt better. He was taking his chemo. He felt much better. So I said, I was in touch with him the whole time. He says, can I do some work? And guess what? We found work for him. What did he do? He delivered food to people's homes. He spent a few hours every day going on this special food truck, and he drove well, and he delivered food during COVID. This goes before he was diagnosed. During COVID, that's what he was doing most of the time. So he wants to deliver food, and he did it till very recently when he said to me, I can no longer do this. But I want to just ask Shalom. Shalom was his co-driver. Shalom drove with him. He ran into the house, like you see the UPS have two drivers sometimes. He was the co-driver. He ran in, made sure in case he's blocking traffic, deliver the food. During COVID, he always drove with him. And recently, when I even saw delivering food was already a big deal. And so I said, Shalom, you drive with him, and he'll be the driver, and you'll bring the food. Shalom has, I think, one or two stories that he wants to share.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's actually, I'm going to keep this like short and sweet for him. When I first met Nun, it was actually through Chicago Mitzvah Campaign. I remember the first day I came into the senior center. It was during COVID, and Rabbi Wolf was having a meeting with all the drivers, and there was Nun sitting right there. And Rabbi Wolf said to me, Shalom, I want you to go work with Nun. You're going to help him deliver food to seniors. You're going to help take patients to the doctor's appointments. You're going to help take children to school. And I said to Rabbi, thank you so much. And when Nun and I were working together, he was a very smart man and very intelligent, very, very smart man. And he had a passion so much to help people. And that's what he wanted. And when I worked with him for a long time, you get to know someone for a long time. And as Rabbi Soloveitchik said, that he wanted to help people so much, and he did. But he also, he had another passion too. He also had a passion with doing other stuff. But you can learn so much from him. And even though Nun's gone today, we'll always remember his heart and spirit. I remember one time that I was delivering food. We were dropping a patient off to the doctor's appointment, and Nun accidentally left the keys in the truck. What was he and I going to do? He didn't give up. So we opened the door to the lift, and I held his foot and helped him climb into the truck of the lift. It was the most amazing thing ever, because he would never give up a job. He never gave up work. He worked until he couldn't feel well. And I remember the times when I was delivering food with him, and I saw him feeling very unwell. And at the end, he would not give up. He told me he said to me face to face, Shalom, I'm going to keep working here as long as I can, and I'm not going to give up this fight with this disease, because I will fight with it until the end. And unfortunately, because of his passing, he accomplished that fight. And even though he never had a chance to get married or have children, his legacy, his love for everyone and for all the seniors that he helped today is going to live on. And I think his even though he's not with us today, he's going to be with us in heart, and his spirit is with us forever come. Thank you.
Thank you for those beautiful words. I'm going to ask Rabbi Weinschneider also to say a few words. And Rabbi Weinschneider was both his rabbi, but he was with him until the very end, and just a wonderful, wonderful friend.
Look on time. You know, it's traditional in our circles that every week we read a portion of the Bible throughout the course of the year. And this week's portion talks about the story of Noah. And it talks about the flood, Noah and the flood. You're all familiar with that. And we see that in this week's portion, we see that Noah goes into the ark because of the waters of the flood. He sees the flood, and he goes into the ark. And our commentators explain that Noah, he says, was of small faith, because he believed and he didn't believe. And therefore he didn't enter the ark until the waters actually reached his feet and almost forced him to enter. He had to be forced almost to enter. I saw an interesting thought. After all, Noah was considered a righteous man of his generation, but at the same time, it was a confused moment for him. Should he go in? Should he not go in? He waited for the waters to actually reach up to his ankles, and he said, I better go in. I better take the family. And again, the Torah says he was a complete tzaddik, a completely righteous man. So I saw an interesting thought from Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky. He was known as the Stipler Gaon. He was a great rabbi, and he said that Noah believed intellectually that the flood would come. He believed intellectually, yeah, there's going to be a flood, but emotionally he didn't feel it. It's just emotionally he couldn't feel that. And until the water actually came up and was looking at his feet, that's when he finally decided it's showtime. You know, my teacher, and the father of Moshe Soloveitchik, my teacher, Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik, pointed out that the Hebrew word to believe is lahamin, is a causative word. The idea expressed here is that someone who has a strong belief in something will be able to convince other people of that belief as well. And the rabbis tell us that during the 127 years that Noah was building this ark, people would ask him, "What are you doing, old man?" And he would say, "Well, I'm building this ark because there's going to be a flood." And, you know, he told them the answer, but intellectually, but nobody believed him. Nobody bought into this idea. He wasn't able to convince anybody else that they were going to all be punished, even though he warned them. So the thing is, according to Rabbi Soloveitchik's father, according to Rabbi Soloveitchik, he believed, but he didn't believe, in the sense that nothing happened because of his belief. Nothing happened. It was all very, it just passed right away. There was lacking in sufficient conviction. So I want to say about Noah that may be true, and I also want to say about Nun. Our friend Nun did have a lot of conviction. He was a man that really believed in what he was doing, and he actually was very instrumental in my synagogue in keeping people excited about what they were doing. He was a believer, and he helped other people believe. He was extremely strong in his beliefs, and he was extremely powerful in what he did in a quiet sort of way. You know, I also saw another thought that Rabbi Cook, who was a former chief rabbi of Israel, he translates it differently. He says he had a katana amuna, small faith. He said that amana, he wasn't able to transfer it to the next generation. That it may be true that Noah was a believer, but he wasn't able to transfer it to the next generation. I want to say that Nun not only had an influence on the immediate people around him, but even the next generation. While it's true that Nun did not have children of his own, there were people in the synagogue and people that he lived with that he was especially close to. I've asked his family, and I believe they agreed, that the tefillin, the phylacteries that he wore for years, that we could pass that on to somebody, possibly Michael, whose bar mitzvah is coming up. We have another generation of that he's going to pass this on to. I think it's a nice touch that Michael, who was very close to him, it wasn't biologically his son, but it was something that he taught him. He made him strong. And I'd like to say that as he reaches majority in his age at 13, that he'll be having the tefillin of Nun to use. And I think it's both a credit to Nun and to his children that he influenced. I'm going to end with something else. This is for the people that maybe aren't so familiar with the English, the Hebrew rather. Our Heavenly Father, with humbleness of spirit, with broken hearts, with pangs of sorrow, we gathered here to mourn the loss of our beloved brother Nun. It is beyond our comprehension to fathom the meaning of life itself. Now then, O Lord, how are we to find comfort in this our most tragic hour? The shadows deepen, the day appears long, the night interminable. The years, weeks, days, hours, and minutes we spent with him on earth are now at an end. Who will now answer to his name? Who shall we find the ready smile? Where will we find the warm heart? Where shall we look for the generous soul? Who, Lord, where will we find this man? Who provides the extended hand of friendship? Where will we find his virtue of kindness? The prophet's piercing lament fills our every being, and he implores, Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri, from whence comes my help? Beloved Father of all mankind, thou art who has created heaven and earth. You have created and brought us this precious soul to this earth years ago. and also the omnipotent one who called him back to you. We return him to thy loving care, though our hearts are torn asunder. We lead him not to his eternal home, now to his eternal home, though our hearts shall now be empty. Do not allow, eternal God, these moments of birth, bitterness, and confusion to shake our trust and faith in you. Thou who hast led our ancestors by pillar of fire in the day and flame of fire at night, must now also show us, those of us that are in deep sorrow, the road to comfort and solace. Help us to go in their path, even though we are now alone. Bestow the mercifulness, blessings upon us, that our life shall be such as to bring honor and dignity to his name. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Do Kelmala.
Holy scriptures that we have that can no longer be used. And you don't have to be part of this.
I just want to add to what Rabbi Wolf said, that there's a custom when a very righteous individual is buried, some of the Holy Scriptures that the PMO are buried together with him, because he's identified with the Scriptures. And Nun was that type of individual.
customary for those who want to participate in the burial. You may do so. It's customary to place a couple of shovels of earth into the grave and don't pass the shovel from person to person. Just place the shovel back into the mound.
The tractor's gonna fill in, so we can move.
David Moskowitz said David Moskowitz said he'll do it. Oh, I'm just going to read the last line. We'll tell them all of it. This event. It's always good to see him. We're filling that one corner there a little bit. I'd like to just get that corner filled in. Okay, so we'll finish. I'm gonna say the Kel Mole, and then Rabbi Weinstein is gonna say Kaddish. And no. If you guys can continue and try to get in that corner there, that one empty corner. Thank you very much, and as always, thank you to the Chicago Jewish Funerals, and thank you to these wonderful men from Silverman and Weiss who are always there for us. I'm not going to speak, but I just want to say when I met Nun, one thing that always struck me is the word refined. He was just a fine, classy, person, and I never saw a break character from that. And I used to see him coming in the Ark sometimes. I work in the Ark, a social service agency, sometimes bringing people for Rabbi Wolf, and he was so beautiful and gentle and kind with every person. As much as it was mentioned that he didn't have a traditional family, all of us felt very close to him, and we're all family. El milei rachamim, shochein b'ambramim, hamtzei menuchata, or kanfei b'shvela, b'malos kadoshim tarim, kezor harakia mashirim, es nishmas Yisrael Nun ben Avraham, sholach lo lamo, ba'avor shemispalim vad hazkaras nishmaso, Gan Eden Taimenu Chaso, L'chein Balarachamim Yastireo B'Seiser Knofav, Rolamim, Yitzror B'Tzor HaChayim, Snishmaso Adidoi, V'Nachalaso, V'Yanuach, HaMishkavo, V'Shalom, V'Nomar, Amen.
Amen.
God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest in the sheltering wings of your holy presence, to the soul of Nun, who is gone to his world, and for whose memory we will pray. May his resting place be in the Garden of Eden. May the Master of Mercy shelter him in the shelter of his wings for eternity. May he bind his soul in the everlasting bond of life. May God be his rest, his heritage. May he rest in his resting place in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Iskadav, Iskadash, Shmei Rabba, B'yomad Yivrach Yusei, V'yamlich Malchusei, B'chai Echonu, V'mechanu, V'chai L'chol Beis Yisrael, V'agalav, Izman Karev, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba, Mevarach, Le'olam U'me'el Maya, Yisbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yisbar, V'yisrumam, V'yisnasei, V'yisadar, V'yisalev, V'yisalo, Shmei D'Kudashah, B'richu, Leila mikol b'chasa v'shirasa, tush b'chasa v'nechem hasa, damiram b'yoma v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba mitzrayim, v'chaim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osa shalom b'imrama, v'yasa shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
This concludes the funeral. You may return to your cars.